So I guess, from your perspective, I mean, what's maybe maybe from your perspective it's loudly, but maybe to everyone else who might be quietly changing in the
Yeah,
economy that most people might not be noticing until it's too late.
yeah. Well, we wrote for those that are inclined this way, we wrote a big research paper, and you can just go on our website and grab it, and it's very detailed. But I'd like to put it into sort of big broad brushstrokes. So on the inflation side, we have a structurally weak currency. We do. Um, we run fiscal deficits, and that's at the federal, provincial, and municipal level. So we consume more than we produce, and we fund that consumption with debt. And we grossly underinvest in productive capital. And the limited amount of fixed capital investment we make in Canada, and it's much lower than our peers, is disproportionately in residential real estate. 40% of all Canadian fixed capital formation is residential real estate, which we do at all-time high prices with records amounts of leverage. So if you want the poster child for what drives up inflation, a weak currency and fiscal deficits and current account deficits. And because you fund those with debt. And eventually, the fiscal deficit, the central banks step in and either monetize it or they push down interest rates to make the servicing of that sustainable. But eventually, the payment on that large federal deficit becomes big enough as a line item where it becomes a funding problem. They can't fund it at high interest rates. You have to push down rates. That requires money printing. So if you look at the history of governments that run sustained fiscal deficits, they have inflation problems. That's the inflation side of the puzzle. And then on the growth side of the puzzle, we underinvest in productive capital. And I won't delve into the politics of why we do, but we do. And until we started, it's not complicated. If you want affluence, you need to encourage the formation of fixed capital. If you want poverty, impede capital formation. Because what's the poorest possible set of conditions? A place with no capital. That's as poor as you're going to get. And so Canada, for some reason, has this view, and it's held throughout the voting populace, that we don't need to invest in fixed capital, that we don't need to invest in production and fixed capital and infrastructure. That somehow we can run a consumption services-based economy and run a current account deficit perpetually. That's a recipe for poverty and inflation, which is just another way of saying stagflation.
Right.